Before we get into the video, I find myself doing this a lot lately. I should probably wait till the end to record my intros. But before we get into the video, I would like for everybody that wants to be a part of the voting, go to my page, scroll over to community, and then vote which project you want to see me work on next. So far, it's a pretty close race between the van and the Caprice, and it can go either way. We only 250 votes out of almost 2,600 subscribers. So if you can, hop on to the main page, go to community, vote, and let's get into that. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Crawford. This is Virginia's for Lowriders. And just like I say every week, we're doing the thing. We're working on the Mazda. We're going to try and make this quick because everybody's probably tired of hearing it. But for the people that haven't been here before, A.D.'s Mazda project. Everything that you can do to a vehicle. 3-link, suspension, airbags, body drop, paint, bodywork, wiring, custom interior, soft top. Whatever you can do to a vehicle is probably going to get done to this vehicle at some point in some variation. So if you've never been here before, there's over 46 videos now of this truck documenting literally everything because I talk and ramble about all of it. And it's extremely detailed. Probably a little too detailed, but we're doing it. We're doing the thing. We're trying to get progress. We're trying to make this a running vehicle, and we are super, super close besides the bodywork stuff. Last week we left off with making a couple inner fender pieces. We did some other random small things, but every week we're getting progress done, and that's the point. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as we're in the garage accomplishing something. That's the goal. This week's goal, similar to last week's goal, and the same thing for the last forever. We're trying to get this to run, so we're chipping away at small stuff. The goal, again, is to get the interior in it, at least the carpet and the seat, not the door panels, because the doors still need to be painted, and that kind of doesn't make sense. But that's the goal. I don't know where we're going to get with that. I don't know what we're going to get straight away in the A.D.D and the O.C.D and everything else that I constantly talk about. Where all that's going to take us, but we're going to try. So this week, I've came out here. I wired up the horns. I started wiring up the distributor. Got everything loomed up. I got to tuck away a couple wires here and there. But the distributor is completely wired. So officially, there is no more wiring to be done in the engine bay at all. This is completely wired. Everything is wire tucked inside of the inner fenders, fuse blocks, and everything that's gonna be in here is in here. We gotta make a opening bigger on the firewall this weekend to where we can pass the engine harness through the firewall. And that's it. It's done as far as wiring goes. I have to make a final brake line to go underneath the engine and then to the back. We're going to be installing the clutch master cylinder, the clutch slave cylinder, making a line between the two. There's a lot of little things that need to be done. I tried to do a bunch of them off camera that are super boring. So yeah, we're doing the thing. If you've never been here before, do all the normal YouTube-y things. The likes and the comments and the subscribing would be awesome. We are well on our way to 3,000 now. We've crested over that 2,500 mark, and we're almost to 2,600, and it's only been a week. That's awesome. So I really appreciate everybody that's subscribed and that's starting to follow along with this build. Hopefully, y'all follow along for the other 30 builds that I got after this. We're going to try to keep the rambling to a minimum, like I say all the time, but I get carried away, and we're just going to jump into it. We're going to tackle little stuff here and there. Hopefully I get some form of sunny day out before the end of the weekend so I can lay the carpet out in the sun, let it unfold and uncrease itself somewhat so we can try to install that. We have to poke some more holes in the cab that I didn't anticipate because I was thinking of it wrong. There's a lot of little things. So thanks for watching. Let's get into it. So here's a small close-up. I still have to run this line up underneath this lip. That way the only thing that you actually see which this isn't even part of it. That's just a random airline. The only part that you see, originally I was gonna run this down below everything, but I think it turned out pretty cool and clean. Just having a couple clamps here, a clamp at the bottom, and the distributors. Everything's hooked up. And I think so far we're looking pretty good. I'm gonna bring my vacuum fill home for the radiator. I can show you all that thing, and we can test the coolant system for leaks. I'm gonna try to remember to bring that home from work tomorrow so we can do that. Today I started messing with, before I turned the camera on, the clutch slave cylinder, which is really rough. You see this rubber thing is just disintegrating. I don't know if you can actually see in there, but it's pretty bad. But things like that for this truck are surprisingly cheap. Like this was like $7, which is kind of weird. One awesome thing about the YouTube community is the amount of guys that have already done or in process of doing or have the knowledge from their buddies doing something, and they share that stuff with me whenever I ask questions. So talking back and forth with a subscriber, I will add a link to his Instagram. He has a super clean Mazda. He actually went through the process of figuring out a nice looking short clutch master cylinder, slave cylinder, soft line. So this is a Earl's, here's the part number, and the reason that he was looking into it, same reason I looked into it. I'd already purchased a stock one, but after he showed me pictures of his, there's no way I'm using the stock one. Again, it's one of those weird Rock Auto things. You get like a sale ad thing in your email, and it cost me like $3. I have the factory one. It was, like I said, like $4. It's extremely cheap. This is the length of the factory one, and this is what we'll be replacing it with. Significantly smaller and much nicer looking. I went to the parts truck because my part was missing. Got the little bracket, painted that guy up. I'm gonna get that mounted to the firewall. I'm gonna get this new slave cylinder mounted to the engine and the trans, and start assembling this stuff and actually try to get a new line made up for this. I have the new clutch master cylinder somewhere. Yeah, it's in there. I'm gonna try to get that installed, get the pedal hooked back up. There's a lot of little details. This is the stuff that kills me. Like, I am all about the huge chunks of progress, like making the 3-link or bagging the front or cutting a hole in the roof and metalworking the metal and doing like huge things. It's the little stuff that just drags on. So while I'm got the energy and the, I don't know, the want to do this, I guess, we're gonna get it done. We're gonna try to throw in some other more interesting things. This truck has clearly been taken apart a lot over the years. There's so many bits and pieces of this that I'm assuming they lost the bolts to at some point, and they just stuck whatever they had back in there, because a lot of this stuff definitely does not seem right. Well, we're back out here. It's Friday. I came out here yesterday. I didn't really record any of it because my giant head would have been in the way for most of it because I was underneath the dash. My buddy Sean sent me the clutch switch, the brake switch, the brake spring a couple months ago, and I finally found all of them again in my garage since I've been cleaning, and I actually spent like an hour or 45 minutes at least looking for the spring yesterday. But it's installed. I got the clutch master cylinder installed. I started working on firewall grommets. I'll show you all that in a minute. I actually remembered to bring home my vacuum fill for the radiator and the coolant system. I work on equipment for a living, and there's a lot of times where, like, I have a radiator in my backyard that I saved from a really large air compressor. It's an air compressor that's about the size of a single wide trailer, like a house. The radiator is 6 foot or so tall and 5 or 6 inches thick. For instances like that, this thing saves hours of time from transferring coolant from a 55-gallon drum into a radiator. But instances like this, where everything was completely taken apart and there's a really high chance of getting air pockets trapped somewhere and potentially causing overheating issues, it's always nice just to use these. I know they sell cheaper versions of these on Amazon, which I can't speak on because I've never owned one of those. This is a Cornwell one. I know that Cornwell most of the time is just Chinese stuff that they slap their name on, but there's other variations of these I've seen. They just paint them a different color and etch a different name in them. I'll show you all how to use this real quick. They save so much time and prevent a lot of potential issues. Very, very simple tools. I have the universal one because I work on so many random things. Stick it in the end of the radiator. Slowly open up. It's kind of hard to hear with me with this thing going. Slowly open up the vacuum and then slowly open up the port to go into the actual truck. So what I like to do is get a good vacuum on it. I don't know why this thing won't focus on there. And as you can see, it has enough vacuum to collapse all of the hoses. Even the little guys at the back are collapsed. But this thing is tight. And what this does is it'll show me, I'll leave it on here with a vacuum for, say, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it may be. It'll show me if I have any leaks in the entire system before I put coolant in it and before I basically waste it. Coolant's really expensive now. This is a preventative thing so that we're not wasting money, basically. And this is exactly why I hold the vacuum for so long. It might be kind of hard to hear it, but when I squeeze this, I can actually get an air leak around this somewhere. So I'm going to play with that clamp and see if I can get that to go away, because it definitely causes a leak. Haven't found any other leaks so far. So after removing the hose, because the weight of this pulling on this, it's just a universal fitting. They sell these kits with different fittings that actually attach to the cap. So I'm getting a less than perfect vacuum, and if you move it you can actually lose some of the vacuum. But we're at a good point. It doesn't leak down unless I go fidgeting with this thing. So hose goes in the coolant on the other side. Still have the extreme vacuum on the hoses. So you'll see the hose when I release the vacuum, it pulls the coolant from down there into the system. It's like voodoo. You can see the hose is slowly coming back into form and draining. It's quick too. You'll see this slowly drop. And if you run out of coolant like this, you just stop the vacuum, create another vacuum. Well, it's Saturday, and yesterday it didn't go well. Got everything filled up with coolant, And I mean, y'all were there, watched me do the whole vacuum thing and check for leaks. It didn't start making any vacuuming leaking noises until I started putting coolant in it, and then I found a leak. Where I cut all that big bracketry thing and ports and all that stuff off the side of the intake, I had one little tiny pinhole in the intake. That snowballed, which I figured it would, into 3 hours worth of welding it, grinding it down, welding it, grinding it down. And there's so many impurities in that metal, plus now there was coolant behind the metal. And I tried to get it all out with air. I welded it over and over and over. It's not leaking right now, but it looks like complete crap after I sanded it all down, because all of those impurities came to the top. And I don't want to grind it down anymore and then make it leak again, because I don't want to weld it again. So it's going to have a bunch of little tiny dimples on that portion of the intake, until I either decide to make myself pull the intake off, cut that whole piece off of it, and just weld a new piece in, or come up with another solution. But for now, it doesn't leak. There was coolant in it all night long, and there's no coolant that I see that dripped out. So we're going to move on to the next thing, because I do not want to mess with that anymore. It was a long night of something that I did already months ago, so it kind of sucked. We have a little bit of sunlight, so I'm going to pull the carpet out of one of my many vehicles I need to work on that's being used as a storage unit, and we're going to lay it out in the sun, and we're going to try and do something cool, because I don't know, yesterday didn't work, and it was really bad. That big ball of mess is the old carpet and the new carpet. I need to figure all of that out. So when you buy new carpet, it looks something like this, but it's mashed into a very small box. And it is very creased, as you can see. I got this from Rock Auto. If anybody wants a link, I'll send it to them. But this is what I've been talking about for the last 2 weeks. We're not having any sunshine to help this out. These creases are crazy. So I'm gonna lay this one out. I'm gonna lay the old one next to it. That way, maybe I can transfer over at least the shifter hole. The seatbelts and stuff I can do when it's in the truck, but the shifter hole I don't want to guess at. As you can see, there's supposed to be a lot of holes in this carpet. A lot of this stuff is kind of universal, like seatbelt holes that this truck doesn't utilize, but you can see the factory one actually has little punch out things. Somebody had put bucket seats in my truck before I got it, so I'm actually not utilizing some of these holes. This is the main one. I want to do this same hole, but just a little bit smaller. I'm gonna let these sit out here for an hour or two. Hopefully the weather holds out. Well, I don't know. I managed to waste the entire day. Yet again. It's like 5 o'clock. But we're out here again. We're going to get something done. The carpet looks significantly better, even though on camera it still looks kind of crappy. But we got a lot of hard creases unfolded. I actually have some shape going on here, so I'm not quite ready to put this in, but at least we can set it in the garage and hopefully try to put it in tonight. I won't be able to work tomorrow because tomorrow is Mother's Day and I plan on going to hang out with my mom at some point, so whatever we get done tonight is probably all we're going to get done this weekend. If you've been here for a while, you've seen the air manifold set up in here. Initially, like when I first put that thing in there, my plan was to run the front lines probably underneath the carpet in some way. I was going to make like a little channel and make it cool, but in the hydraulic world, I've had Hondas on hydraulics, and I was confident that my hydraulic lines weren't going to pop and I wasn't going to have a scenario where I'd have to be on the side of the road yanking a hydraulic line out from underneath of the car, or taking the interior apart to replace one. I don't really trust airlines like that because they're so thin and kind of delicate, I guess. I don't know. But I talked myself out of running them under the carpet. What the plan is, I'm going to run the lines just in the same fashion, but I think I'm going to run it and stop it short here and put some more of these bulkhead fittings in the cab somewhere around here. That way I have room to do that over there and here. It'll be symmetrical and it should look okay-ish, I guess. So I'm going to pop some holes in here, make these lines to go in there. I'd like to do all that before we put the carpet in, so I'm not getting all these metal shavings all over my new carpet. Still need to make that hole bigger to run the other side of this wiring through the firewall. And I think that's probably about it. I would still like to run some form of wiring from up front to the back, like a 9-wire or 7-wire or something like that, to where when I'm hooking up everything for the radio, I don't have to pull all of the carpet back out just to run the speaker wire and whatever else in the back. I can just tap into that little harness and I won't have to disassemble the interior again. I couldn't find RCAs. I was looking through my shelf. I thought I had another brand new set, but later on I will have to at least pull a portion of the carpet up to run an RCA when I do the stereo, but that's way down the road, so I'm not really concerned about that right now. So we're gonna stop rambling, drill some holes in the cab again, make some hard lines, and make a bigger hole. It's been about an hour of me staring at this and trying to figure all of this out, because there's so much stuff that needs to be ran behind the seat that I wasn't thinking of. So first off, I got the harness that goes to the tail lights that comes from underneath the driver's side. Then the harness that runs the switch box that needs to go to the manifold. Then the wiring harness for the air compressors with the relays and stuff attached to them, or solenoids. On top of that, I have the... what else am I missing here? So I have the 9-wire that I was talking about. It actually is 9-wire. So if you were, say, running a amp to a vehicle and you wanted to put the amp in the back of the car, but you needed to run speaker wire to the front of the vehicle, or vice versa, if you were adding a new radio and you didn't want to run individual strands and you didn't need a high current, you could buy this, which this actually has all of the colors, just like the back of a head unit does, with your gray, white, greens, purples. So this will also get ran from the back of the radio to back here. That way, eventually, when this ends up with amps or subs, or I don't know how I'm going to fit subs in here, but all of the other things that eventually need to be wired in, everything will be ran through this, except for the RCAs. But with the tight quarters that I'm working with, there's a good chance that the amp will end up underneath the dashboard. I'll probably end up running a really small amp anyway, and having to modify the airbox and all that stuff. There's a pretty big pocket of room left underneath there. I need to now make all of this fit in here. I ended up taking loose this harness and this harness from here and rerouting that a little bit differently. I'm going to run more of these clamps on this side for the seatbelt harness and probably the switches too. So I'm going to go ahead and drill a bunch of holes in here and put in a bunch of rib nuts real quick. starting to look like something here. Got all that plumbed. What I'm going to do on the backside is run hard line out of that and then down underneath the cab because it's such a tight area. I think it'll look perfectly fine. I got the harness completely tied in on this side, routed up in there, and we got the harnesses on this side tied in just like the other one. I got everything, all the lengths of wire just put up here. So I don't want to finish this until the carpet's in, because I want to see how the carpet's going to lay in here. I already know that it's going to be a little weird here because the carpet comes up past this. So I don't want to try to mount a bunch of stuff in here until I can see how the carpet's going to react to it. Most likely I'm going to have to trim the carpet kind of low, but I mean the truck is going to be on the ground. Not very many people are going to be looking at my truck like this, so unless it's y'all, because I said something about it. But we're looking pretty good. I pulled the shifter out, pulled the doors off, so it's easier to work with. Got the carpet ready to go, and I'm gonna do a dry run just to see where we're at, see if we can get some general ideas of how this is going to look in there. So wish me luck. Stuff is a little more plush than I was thinking. It's got all that padding on the bottom. It's like super duper long. I could almost fit in an extended cab with the length of it. But what I need to do first off is put a slit in the middle, because it is not going to go around that heater control stuff. From the factory, all of that is like, you would take the dash out, put the carpet in, and then it would be bolted down to it. I'm not doing all that. I'm just going to put a cut in the middle and try and form it around there. But I'll probably end up having to cut 8 inches off the back of this. We're going to have to cut around this thing.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a little more finagly.
So the wires that have to get wired up are sitting up there. All of that has to live in there somewhere.
Live peacefully, perfect harmony.
So this thing being here makes it bunge up in the corner because it doesn't allow it to stretch right.
Yeah.
Normally they sit like this.
Mm-hmm.
They have to sit like this. I have to modify them to make them do that. I figured we'll just get it like this and then just shut the door really hard.
And it'll cut it.
It'll hold it in place.
Do you have a carpet shear?
Yeah.
Hey guys.
A close-up personal view.
Oh man.
Just that little bit of trim. And the carpet covers up my crappy edge.
Chip Foose would be proud.
Daddy Foose.
Look at that. Beautiful. Look at that big dome.
Yeah. This I still gotta figure out. I have to trim the bottom of it for it to work.
He still has to trim the bottom for it to work.
We haven't recorded in a while, but we got the carpet set in. We got the other side pretty much trimmed. I showed you the little kick panel thing. Putting everything back together, and I never realized that the rear bolts have no threads on them at all. So I'm gonna try and tap the rear bolts out to America and do away with this and try and make some more progress tonight. Hopefully get this carpet buttoned up for the most part. I have the camera guy his way through here. Yeah, see that? Special guest appearance, James.
Tight little body on her there.
Tight little body on her.
I can just feel like that Rick Derringer song. I am a real pancake.
That's the way you feel whenever we're taking metric bolts out to use.
Yeah, and going to American
Stay.
bolts. That's how it should be built for the factory.
Hopefully there's enough meat that this actually holds.
Well, this is my side, so it's cool. It's gonna be red.
Like, I gotta do both sides.
Well, I'm heavy enough. I'll have enough force on the seat. Man,
Smooth.
smooth.
Yeah. There's threads in there. I don't know what they're attached to, but there's this over there. Like brand new. And if we have to, we'll put a nut on the bottom. We're doing the same thing because this side has no threads in it either. America. It's really late. It's like 12 something
On Mother's Day.
on Mother's Day. So I'm trying to get done as much as I can get done right now so I can hang out with my mom tomorrow. I might come back out here when I get home, but probably not. So, if you have a Mazda and the seat belts strip out, you can go to a 7/16 bolt and still have enough meat on whatever kind of insert they use to tap it again. This camera's not the best at focusing on things, but you get the idea. So now I can do the thing with the thing and poke holes and burn the holes in for the seat bolts. I'm going to get this kick panel put back on and try to get this. I have the seat brackets unbolted from the seat right now. So what I'm going to do is get this side completely bolted in and then go over and trim the other side. Never tried this before. I saw it on Vice Grip and he does it all the time and it makes it look like it helps a lot. Get your torch. A screwdriver you don't care about. This is my multi-purpose screwdriver that I use for making battery cables. It's just about glowing now.
Hot enough to poke through the...
So, find the hole. You don't have to trim anything. Just smells god awful. What is that? GoPro's freaking out. So, final results. Again, it smells terrible, but it is crisp, super clean, and it doesn't fray because these carpets are made out of like polyester or something, just essentially plastic. So, I'm going to get this bolted in and then go on to trim the other side. So, everything's looking pretty good so far. I gotta get new kick panels. Those were trimmed for the previous tubs, and then trying to trim them to fit these tubs and the body drop, there's just not enough material there, so they're kind of trash. I'm getting some weird bunging up here. There's not really much I can do about it. This will get pushed down once the seat's on there, but the floor is raised and the tunnel's been modified Like this portion of the tunnel is significantly shorter. That way the radio bezel can fit back in there. So it's going to be a little weird considering the carpet is meant for a stock interior. But so far it looks pretty good. I think I'm going to go ahead and get the other seat bracket in here to hold all of this in place. And once that's set in there, I'll come through and start trimming this, and trimming all of this, and then the back wall. Man, that smells terrible. Don't breathe this. Parts truck to the rescue yet again. Because all of these clips were broken on this one. Not sure why I'm getting such a bunged up area through here, and I didn't get that on the other side. So it doesn't look too bad. Like I said, it got a little bungee here and there. I watched some videos online. I will say, I've never installed new carpet before. I think the only thing I've ever put new carpet in was my 63 convertible Falcon. And that was helping my dad do it when I was, I don't know, 10. So way too long ago for me to actually remember. And I probably really wasn't doing anything. I was there for moral support. So this is a learning curve for sure. It's a good thing I tried it on something that was extremely cheap as far as cheap carpets go for replacement stuff. So it looks pretty good. It's a good like 10 footer at least. What I'm thinking, the radio bezel, which I have to modify this one. This is the old one that I modified. I still have to make the bracket fit in the carpet. So this is going to get cut throughout here so that bracket can be bolted to the trans tunnel, and then that bracket gets bolted to this thing. I need to cut the shifter hole out, which I could probably do that today, but all of this gets modified, so I think once that gets cut down the middle, I can pull the sides in and get some of this bunged up stuff out of there. But overall, it's looking pretty good. We're one more step closer to being drivable besides the intake. I don't want to talk about that today. So far, it's really not bad. So we're loose on that side, kind of loose, kind of tight on this side in a weird way. Not really happy with the way it lays in there. But what I was going to say before I get distracted again, I watched a couple of videos of people using steamers to like relax the carpet and form it and move it around, and then some people used heat guns on the back of it. I don't know. I'm going to try the steamer thing probably sometime this week and see if I can get it to fit a little bit better. But I'm happy with it so far for my first time. Plus the seat covers up 3/4 of it and floor mats cover up the rest. So I mean, it really doesn't matter. Pretty much the only part you're actually going to see is right here and a little bit here. Floor mats, all of this gets covered. All of this gets covered. Literally, this little patch is what you're going to see at the very end. But I'm happy with this. This is cool that I got this to work, because That's exactly what I was hoping for, because a lot of trucks you see, there's nothing there. It's just carpet stopping at the edge of a cliff. So that's not too bad. I think we're going to call it quits for this weekend. It is now 1:17 in the morning, and tomorrow is Mother's Day. So I'm going to take tomorrow off. If I do come out here, it's just going to be to clean and pick up after what I did. And I might mess with the carpet a little bit, but I think it's a good stopping point. We got some stuff done. I got some really depressing stuff done that hopefully doesn't come back to bite me in the butt later, and it's completely finished and I never have to touch that intake again. But we made progress, and pretty decent progress. Oh, I forgot we did the airlines and the wiring and the carpet and the trimming and the wiring on the engine and all kinds of stuff. So all overall, pretty good weekend. I do want to say, for the people that actually watch these to the very, very end, I think next week I'm going to take a break from the Mazda. As of right now, the Caprice is winning the voting, meaning the Caprice will be the next major project to come in the garage and get cut up, potentially. But I made the voting go on for 30 days. So if you go to my main page and you scroll all the way to community, you can actually vote. There's only 250 votes in so far. As of right now, it's pretty close to the Caprice and the van. So I think next week what I want to do, because I need to take a break from working on this, because I'm getting to the point I know where I just want to be done with it, and I don't want to cut any corners, so I need to do something else to take my mind off of it. At some point I need to work on the crown, because I still haven't done that. But I think this week, what I've been trying to get out, I want to pull the van around, I want to clean the van, potentially start pulling the engine out of the van, and start getting a price or parts list together. I need to order a Mustang 2 front end, because I think that's the only way that I can get the body to lay. And I need to find a smaller rear end. I have a S10 rear, or a Blazer S10 rear, like a square body Blazer, that could potentially go under the van. I would measure it out and see if it's narrow enough. But I think a small break and trying to bounce around on some other projects is what I normally do. I just don't normally show it on camera, but everybody seems like they're totally interested in watching that. So I'm just going to stop rambling. Again, if you've never been here before, check out all the old videos. There's a lot of new videos to come, and I'll see you next Sunday.